Eric, how do you approach this one? Is kind of obviously a lot of fans will be interested in this one, but it's another game for you guys. How do you kind of approach this overall?
Yeah, I think we'll definitely make a real effort not to make it appear like it's any different to any other game, because we prepare for every game in real detail with a real thoroughness, and this is no different. And I think there's a huge wave of media interest and outside interest that goes with the game, but I think for us it's no different to preparing for any of the other top teams that we would play. And I think the league is it's blessed with some top forwards, some really interesting forwards, and I think almost every other game you're feeling like you're playing against someone of incredibly high calibre across the front line. So this game has that tone to it, but we won't do anything different to what we would normally do, and we want to make sure that the players are expectant of a good performance and are very realistic about our chances of winning the game, which I think is high.
How do you look at them offensively? Obviously, it sounds like Messi's going to play, but Suarez maybe not. How do you kind of look at that?
Yeah,
That might change things.
I think they're obviously, for the reasons everyone's very familiar with, they're a predictably unpredictable team, as I've said a couple of times about a couple of teams that we would play, on account of the fact that they have players with such craft and individuality. It's not like you're playing against a team that is really patterned and perfectly predictable and they're going to score a goal X, Y or Z. They're a team that can create a lot from very little, and I think if you see their numbers over the course of the last or my time in the MLS, they've been incredibly efficient in front of goal, and I think have massively outperformed their XG, and I think that points to almost that they are predictably unpredictable. It's very difficult to kill the exact space every single time and find yourself in a good position. So I think for us it's a case of making sure that we do what we do well, which is defend in a very organised, disciplined, coherent way. We do it as a collective, as 11 players, and then we know that we can hurt them in a number of ways. So the messages that sit behind the performance for us tomorrow that will constitute success are the same as the ones that we talk about most weeks.
What's it, on a personal level, what's it like to have sort of the challenge of stopping a guy that the entire world has failed to stop for 20 years?
Yeah, I can't pretend that there isn't an element of real intrigue from a coaching perspective. I think any coach would say to prepare a team to play against Messi and those that go with it. It's a really interesting thing to do, and I also won't let that be lost on the players or the staff. I don't want to take away all elements of it being a really special occasion, because I think is one of the nice things about being in this league at the moment. It's not every coach in the world can say that they've prepared a team to play against Messi. Not every player can say that they've had the experience of sharing a pitch with the best or one of the best players to have ever touched the field. So I'm definitely not going to be that guy, but I also want to make sure that we know we've got a very realistic chance of winning the game, and I don't want it to be spoken about in such a way that we feel like we're just part of a show, which just isn't the case.
What did you take away from Wednesday's game at Louisville?
I really enjoyed working with that group of players. I really enjoyed the freshness of it. I would say the players we left behind probably enjoyed the freshness of working with Dennis for the week and not me and some of the other staff. So I think both groups have benefited from the freshness, I would say. But with that young group of guys, you've got real humility, real workmanlike. They're desperate to win. And I think if you saw the faces of some of the young guys after the game, having won the game, they were absolutely elated. And I think it's a really nice thing to be a part of. And then when you add the stuff with Darius and him being the youngest player and the youngest scorer, and the way we finished the game, it wasn't pretty, but it was a really we showed a lot of grit and a lot of desperation to win that game, which I think was really important. So I enjoyed all elements of that, and I think it was a really cool place to go and play in a city that I've not seen before.
What did you think of the Koreans' effort? Obviously, they contribute to Darius's goal. What did you think of their shifts?
Yeah, I think I don't think it was a game in which either team played free-flowing, very sort of coherent football in any way. I think it was a little bit back and forth, and we obviously won the game on the basis of being solid defensively, and obviously Sangbin and Hoyun both really contributed to that. And then when the moment came, Hoyun showed some real quality, and Sangbin obviously did what he does when he's at his very best, which is really good movement off the shoulder, really took the spacing behind well, and unfortunately Darius was on the end of it. So I think both of those two contributed to the team performance from a defensive perspective, and they were the decisive players in that moment. So I think it was a good day for them.
How do you look at the guys who've been dealing with injuries, Kelvin and Owen, and how close are they to coming?
No, really close. Obviously, as you've seen this morning, they're well in contention to be around the coming lineups and squads. So I think we're back to being in almost full health. Obviously, we've got Kip Keller, who's been out for most of his time here, and we probably wouldn't expect him to make too much of a mark on the 11 for a while, given his situation. So I think taking him and Hassani into consideration, I think we're in a good place now.
Will Kelvin be available tomorrow?
Yes, yeah.
Do you look to Julian at all, just given his experience in Miami?
Yeah, I think all the staff have, over the course of the last couple of weeks, had interesting conversations with Julian about how things work there, and it would almost be remiss of us not to draw a little bit on his experience. And I know in the work that we've done this morning, he's been very vocal. He obviously knows the players inside out. So when we've spent the morning talking about some of the intricacies of what they do and what we want to do, Julian has been really useful and supportive in that sense. And I think that is him normally as a character. He's that type of character. But I think here he obviously has a very unique insight, and we'll definitely draw on that.
As the season wears along here, how do you deal with the number of other jobs back in England and elsewhere that you've been connected with?
Yeah, I think it's just that time of year. I think particularly in England, full well there's a big churn of head coaches there, and particularly at the sort of comparable levels to this and the level that I've been linked with jobs in the past. There are now lots, and there always are lots at this time of year. So I think it's just almost an inevitability, I would say, and something I'm not thinking about at all in this moment. We've got such a busy run of games and so much to contend with here that it's the least of my concern.
If the right job came along, would you be willing to leave in the middle of the season, or is that not something?
I'm genuinely not thinking about that at the moment. I think that's the beauty of this period for us. I think the MLS goes from 0 to 100 in terms of the volume of games and the amount of preparation that you have to do. And obviously we're doing some really good things at the moment here, and the group's in a really good place, and I'm really enjoying the work. So I haven't really got the capacity to consider that sort of thing.